The story starts with Kim Yo-han, a trainee at the prosecutor's office. He gets a job to go undercover in a gambling den to gather information on Young Jun, who owns Skin Nation and leads the biggest gang in South Korea. This mission is illegal, but Yo-han needs to complete it to pass a test and become a prosecutor. To blend in, Yo-han has to gamble. In the first round, he tries to win big money, but the den's owner, Jo Hae-do, orders his man, Kim Woo-sang, to cheat. Yo-han gets caught up in the game and risks all his money without knowing he's being tricked. He ends up losing everything. Yo-han gets so addicted to gambling that he's willing to bet even his house certificate. His friend, Hong Jae-sun, tries to help him by offering money to leave, but Yo-han insists on continuing. As he prepares to go back into the gambling room, another player, Oh Soo-yeon, stops him and begs him to run away with her because the police are coming to raid the place. Yo-han, staying calm, refuses and returns to the game. Soon, Yo-han realizes that Young Jun has escaped. Determined not to give up, he starts secretly taking photos of the other players, thinking they might be cheating. His suspicions are confirmed when the police arrive for the raid, causing chaos as everyone tries to flee. Yo-han stays calm and surrenders to the authorities while Hae-do and Young Jun escape. At the police station, Yo-han is released after explaining that he is a trainee on duty from the prosecutor's office. He then returns to his modest home, where he lives with his grandmother, Shin Dal-soo, after his father, Kim Tae-soo, a prosecutor, was killed. Not long after, prosecutor Jin Hyung and detective Bae Yong-gum, Yo-han's boss and his father's old friend, come to talk about his failed mission. Jin Hyung then asks Yo-han to look into Lee Tae-kwang, one of Young Jun's close friends, who has video evidence of gambling. Tae-kwang is in Seongju prison, so Jin Hyung gives Yo-han time to think about the mission before accepting it. One night, Jin Hyung is attacked in a parking lot after a meeting with other prosecutors. He is hurt but survives. At the same time, Yo-han is kidnapped and taken to a safe house. When he wakes up, he finds his hands and feet tied and his mouth forced open. Hae-do arrives and starts torturing him with dentist tools, demanding Yo-han pay for the closure of his gambling den after the police raid. Hae-do threatens to harm Yo-han's grandmother, Shin Dal-soo, and to get him removed from the trainee list if he doesn't pay. Yo-han faces a tough choice, trying to protect his loved ones and himself. After being tortured and released by Hae-do, Yo-han goes to Yong-gum's house in bloody clothes to tell him what happened. Yong-gum advises him to refuse Jin Hyung's mission, saying prison would be even more dangerous and he could face worse torture. Soon after, Yo-han hears that his grandmother's stall has been attacked and rushes home. He is relieved to find Dal-soo alive, but sees the stall is badly damaged. To his surprise, Hae-do is at his house, pretending to help Dal-soo during the attack. Before leaving, Hae-do threatens Yo-han to pay the compensation or face more torture and harm to Dal-soo. Yo-han has to decide how to protect his loved ones while fulfilling his duty as a trainee prosecutor. The next day, Yo-han meets with Jin Hyung and Yong-gum to say he wants to quit the mission to keep his grandmother safe. Jin Hyung gets angry and tells Yo-han he will never become a prosecutor if he doesn't have the courage to fight criminals. Yong-gum reminds Jin Hyung that after Yo-han's failed mission, many of their colleagues have been attacked, likely by criminals. Jin Hyung recalls his attack the previous night, but tries to hide it from Yong-gum. One night, a mysterious man attacks and kills Yong-gum in a parking lot, causing great sadness for Yo-han and others. After Yong-gum's funeral, Yo-han meets with Jin Hyung, who reveals that he suspects Yoon Byung-wook, from the prosecutor's investigation unit, is behind the attack. Jin Hyung explains that their lives, including Dal-soo's, are in danger if Yo-han does not act quickly to complete the mission and save them. Yo-han accepts the mission to save his grandmother and avenge Yong-gum's death. He goes to Seongju prison, disguised as a prisoner. Meanwhile, Byung-wook discovers that Jin Hyung asked Yo-han to investigate the prison and confronts Jin Hyung at the office. Panicked, Jin Hyung tries to delete the database containing information about the operation that led to Yo-han's expulsion from the prosecutor trainee program. In prison, Yo-han is immediately confronted by Woo-sang, who blames him for the police raid that led to their imprisonment. Jae-sun, who was also supposed to be arrested for gambling, asks Yo-han to confess to borrowing his car to go to the gambling establishment. In return, Jae-sun's father will help Yo-han become a prosecutor once the mission is complete. Yo-han agrees to this deal. In his cell, Yo-han meets the cell leader, Song Do-kol, and other inmates serving time for crimes. Johan goes through a round of verbal abuse as part of the cell's welcome ritual. Later, an inmate announces that Jung Sono, a powerful prisoner, will be inspecting the inmates. The guards make Johan and others leave their cell for the inspection, showing particular interest in Johan's cell. Johan begins his mission to find Taekwon within the prison but cannot locate him. Later, a warden summons Johan to a room where Woo-sang and his accomplices collect money on Hae-doo's orders. Woo-sang forces Johan to pay 1 million won each week, threatening to harm Dal-soo if he refuses. Hae-doo has been mistreating Dal-soo at his house, threatening her to repay her grandson's gambling debts. When Johan refuses to pay, Woo-sang and his gang beat him up. While in the cell, Do-kol learns about Johan's debt to Hae-doo and offers to help him. In the prison sauna, Do-kol proposes a deal. He will help Johan earn money inside the prison to pay off his debt if Johan agrees to help him win at gambling. Do-kol also promises to protect Johan and Dal-soo from Hae-doo if he accepts the offer. At the Korean prosecutor's building, Jin-hyung congratulates Jae-sun for finishing first in prosecutor training. During lunch, Jae-sun takes Jin-hyung out with Byung-wook and Jae-sun's father, Hong Sak-wook, the chief of the prosecutor's office. Sak-wook and Byung-wook offer Jin-hyung a job as an intermediate prosecutor. Byung-wook also reminds Jin-hyung to keep an eye on Johan in prison, who is on a mission from him. Jin-hyung gets worried as more people learn about his plans involving Johan. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon seems to be studying Johan's background, possibly interested in his intelligence and how it might be useful to her. One night, Dal-soo is walking home when a car chases her. Luckily, Soo-yeon sees the incident and helps her escape. Dal-soo thanks her by inviting her home for a treat. Soo-yeon then calls Johan to inform him that Dal-soo has not visited him in prison and that her life is being threatened. She asks Johan to pay Hae-doo the restitution money as soon as possible. Realizing that Dal-soo is still in danger, Johan decides to accept Do-kol's offer to gamble in prison. Do-kol immediately calls Hae-doo, warning him to stop harassing Dal-soo and offers to introduce Taekwon to Johan if he becomes the best gambler in prison. Before Johan starts playing, Do-kol explains that the prison guards facilitate gambling and also participate. The chief warden initially has Taekwon represent him at the gambling table, but after Sono arrives, Taekwon is defeated and his whereabouts are currently unknown. In Seongju prison, there are 3 gambling leagues. The lowest league is played in the locker room, with cigarettes as betting chips. Players who do well move to the second league, which uses real money for betting. Even the wardens sponsor the best players and share the winnings if they succeed. Players who excel in the second league advance to the main league, where they play against Sono, a gambling genius. Every week, players in the main league gamble against important people from outside the prison. Do-kol wants Johan to join the main league and defeat Sono. When Do-kol sends Johan to play, the warden is surprised to see a newcomer, but Johan wins the early rounds, boosting his confidence for facing Taekwon. However, his overconfidence leads to a loss in the next round, and he quickly runs out of money. In the following days, Johan continues to lose and is punished by Do-kol with toilet cleaning duty. One night, Dal-soo tries to contact Jin-hyung to help free Johan from prison, but fails to reach him. Later, a boy named Min-ho asks Dal-soo for help, leading her to a narrow alley where a mysterious man waits to kill her. The next day, while working at a plantation, Johan is approached by Woo-sang and his group, demanding money. When Johan cannot pay, they take him away. Do-kol, disappointed by Johan's losses, seems indifferent. Instead of allowing himself to be beaten, Johan fights back and tries to escape but is arrested and put in solitary confinement for violence. In the isolation room, a man in the next cell offers to teach Johan how to gamble, but Johan declines. Later, Johan hears that Dal-soo has committed suicide. After examining the evidence, he believes she was murdered by Jae-sun. When Johan confronts Jae-sun, he confesses, explaining that he killed Dal-soo out of revenge for Johan's actions against his uncle and father at Hae-doo's gambling den. Johan, furious, hits Jae-sun. Jin-hyung arrives, breaks up the fight, and orders Jae-sun to leave. He tries to calm Johan, but Johan becomes even angrier when he learns Jin-hyung was involved in the mission. Back in solitary confinement, Johan decides to seek revenge for Dal-soo's murder. He accepts the offer from the man in the next cell to learn how to play poker. Over 20 days in solitary confinement, Johan becomes an expert at the card game. When he is released, he begs Do-kol for another chance to gamble in prison. promising to defeat all opponents and repay the money he lost. Do-Cole agrees, and Johan returns to the gambling table. His skills have improved significantly, and he easily defeats all his opponents, becoming a topic of conversation after his big victory. The next day, Do-Cole breaks Johan's leg so he can be sent to the treatment room, making it easier for him to watch Sono, who is rumored to be there. After receiving treatment, Johan searches the nursing rooms until he finds Sono. When he tries to sneak in, Sono's men catch him and bring him to Sono. Fearlessly, Johan asks Sono if he can join the Major League of Prison Gambling. Sono checks Johan's injury by removing his bandage. Once he confirms Johan is really hurt, he challenges him to a game where the loser gets an electric shock. The game involves guessing the cards they have drawn at random. During the game, Sono asks Johan why he is seeking him, leading to a fight and both getting shocked when Sono finds out Johan lied to him. Johan is treated in the prison ward. When he wakes up, he is surprised to see Soo-Yun, who gives him her business card and offers help. Back in his cell, Do-Cole asks about Sono, but Johan doesn't mention their meeting. Later, Johan asks Soo-Yun to find out who the man in the isolation cell next to him is, the one who taught him poker. Using her VIP status, Soo-Yun asks the warden to bring Johan to the man. Johan learns that the man is not Taekwon, but one of Sono's men called the Professor. Johan asks the Professor for help finding Taekwon, but the Professor doesn't know his location. Instead, he helps Johan join the second league by convincing the prison security manager, but only if Johan gives him 60% of his winnings. Johan joins the poker players, including Woo-Sang's group, who cheat by using coded signals that disrupt opponents. In the first round, Johan loses because he can't focus. In the second match, Sono enters to watch. Woo-Sang's group starts using coin-tapping signals, frustrating Johan. He starts doing the same, leaving the other players speechless. Sono then uses a code similar to what Johan learned from the Professor. At first, Johan is suspicious of Sono's code, unsure if he's being set up. However, he follows the code to test if Sono is on his side or trying to deceive him. When the final card is revealed, Johan wins the game, showing that Sono was helping him, leaving Johan confused about his motives. The next day, Johan tells Do-Cole about meeting Sono, but keeps quiet about Sono's help in winning the game. Do-Cole orders Johan to go to the prison hospital for medicine for his recovering feet. At the treatment room, Johan asks Sono why he helped him win. Sono explains that he wants to master Korean gambling after being released from prison and needs a trustworthy person like Johan on his team. A few days later, Johan is moved to a cell with luxurious facilities, like Sono, because he has become a major player in the gambling world. Before moving, he says goodbye to Do-Cole. Even after changing cells, Johan keeps in touch with Do-Cole until one day, Do-Cole asks him to kill Sono in exchange for all the sponsorship he had given him. Johan meets with Sono to reunite him with Do-Cole and his group. Do-Cole orders Johan to stab Sono with a knife, but Johan refuses because he learns that Do-Cole plans to kill him after eliminating Sono. Johan and Sono, who had prepared for a fight with Do-Cole's group, wear body armor. The fight is interrupted when a warden arrives to break it up. One day, Soo-Yun visits Johan in prison and shares her plan for revenge against Byung-Wook and Yang-Jun, whom she has been after for 20 years. She asks Johan to help her, as they share the same target for revenge. He agrees on the condition that she helps him find the person responsible for Dal-Su's murder. To make revenge easier, she suggests that he become the ruler of the prison. A few days later, Johan, now part of Sono's group, starts training to improve his fighting skills by sparring with prisoners skilled in martial arts. Despite having no prior martial arts experience, Johan perseveres and continues to train. Another part of his training involves learning card tricks from Nam Dae-moon, a professional con artist jailed for gambling addiction and embezzling company money. Johan also works as a waiter at a gambling establishment for influential people in Korea, where he and Dae-moon, along with other elite prisoners, deceive the gamblers. As a waiter, Johan collects tips from visitors using the casino's coins. Surprisingly, he collects far more coins than Sono expected. Sono shares all his plans with Johan, which makes Dae-moon angry because he feels Sono is too open with the newcomer. When Soo-Yun visits Johan again, she has visible injuries but doesn't explain how she got them. She informs Johan that she has found Dal-Su's murderer and shows him a video of Jin Hyung holding Dal-Su's lifeless body in a meadow. Johan is shocked to learn that the person he trusted all along had killed his grandmother. Later, when Jin Hyung visited Johan in prison, he didn't ask about his well-being and was only interested in Taekwang's video. Johan got angry and showed him all the evidence proving that Jin Hyung was Dalsu's killer. In his imagination, Johan even attacked and killed Jin Hyung. Despite Jin Hyung's claim that someone was framing him for Dalsu's death, Johan didn't believe him and planned to reveal the truth. Johan continued to collect more evidence and trained hard in fighting, even though it left him battered. When Sono helped treat his wounds, he encouraged Johan to fight back. Johan said he still needed to learn more about fighting. Sono also suspected that Daemoon had bribed someone in the major league of gambling and had stolen money. He asked Johan to find Daemoon's ledger for proof. Unfortunately, when Johan found the ledger, Daemoon caught him and destroyed it. While practicing card tricks with Daemoon, Johan suddenly felt weak after taking Daemoon's medicine. Realizing it was poisoned, Daemoon arrived and kicked Johan in the face until he lost consciousness. When Johan woke up in the prison treatment room, Daemoon explained that he had been poisoned by drinking water contaminated with rat poison and warned him to stay out of Sonoa's business. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon searched Inspector Kwon Dae-il's home for evidence in Dalsu's murder case and found a phone number linked to the crime. Yang-joon visited the police station and met Taekwang, who had been poisoned and placed in a special room by the prison warden, Ha Sang-soo. Sono also arrived to greet Yang-joon, revealing that before being imprisoned, he had worked with Yang-joon and was punished by being castrated after betraying his boss. Sono still held a grudge against Yang-joon for this punishment. Soo-yeon tried to speak with Min-ho, who she believed knew Dalsu's murderer, but he was terrified and avoided her. Jin Hyung continued to search for the person who filmed him with Dalsu's body, checking all the phone numbers he suspected. One day, Jin Hyung went to Byung-wook's office to confirm a phone number he thought belonged to the person who recorded the incident. When he called the number, Byung-wook's phone rang, revealing that he was the one who filmed the scene to ruin Jin Hyung and Johan's relationship. When Yang-joon was about to leave the prison, he saw Johan with a knife and searched him, asking if he was one of Sonoa's men. However, Yang-joon did not find the knife on Johan. After Yang-joon left, Daemoon found the knife and Taekwang's recording device on Johan, leading to Johan being punished. Sono was planning the best way to defeat Yang-joon since they had a deal that required Sono to give up his power in the prison if he lost. Knowing that Yang-joon was more experienced, Sono decided to help Johan because he needed a gambling partner with unpredictable techniques. When Sono rescued Johan from the room where he had been hanged, Daemoon and his men confronted them, saying Johan's punishment was not over. During the tension, a warden arrived, and Sono grabbed the warden's wand and beat Daemoon repeatedly until he fell. Everyone fell silent as Sono declared he was still in charge of the prison. After saving Johan, Sono began teaching him card tricks used to deceive opponents, training him for 3 weeks before the game with Yang-joon. Sono also told Johan about learning to gamble from Yang-joon when he was young. One day, Sono and Yang-joon played together to defeat an opponent, but Sono accidentally gave the wrong code, leading to a major defeat. Yang-joon then challenged Sono to a one-on-one fight, resulting in Sonoa's castration and a ban from gambling in prison for a year. After a few days of training, Johan finally mastered the tricks, preparing him and Sono to face Yang-joon. Before the gambling match, Sono visited Daemoon, who was still in the hospital treatment room after the incident. Sono confronted him about embezzling his money, leaving Daemoon speechless. Daemoon asked Sono about Johan being his successor as the ruler in the prison, but Sono did not answer and walked away. One night, Yang-joon and his partner arrived at the prison for a gambling match with Sono. Meanwhile, Johan and Sono also headed towards the room where the match was held. As the game began, Sono acted as the dealer and asked Johan to continue playing, hoping to uncover Yang-joon's trick. The game continued late into the night, and when Johan became the dealer, he cheated, causing Yang-joon to threaten him. At the same time, Sono caught Yang-joon's partner cheating by hiding cards up his sleeve. With evidence of cheating, Sono threatened to release a tape that would ruin Yang-joon's reputation unless he agreed to release him and Johan. In the end, Yang-joon decided to let them go. A month later, Johan visits Sonoa's room and finds it empty, leading him to suspect that Sono has been released from prison. Meanwhile, Daemoon asks Sang-soo about Johan's location, wanting to get rid of him because he sees Johan as a threat to his control of the prison. Sang-soo tells him that Johan has become Sonoa's successor and is now the ruler of the prison. Dae-moon then meets with Yohan in a luxurious cell within the prison and asks him to give up his powers. Dae-moon later gathers his men and orders them to bow down to Yohan, explaining that Yohan will not take a share of the revenue from the Major League gambling and will give half of it to him. Woo-sang refuses to bow down to Yohan and decides to leave instead. Meanwhile, Jin-hyung has learned the identity of Soo-yeon, a deceitful businesswoman known for posing as a bar owner and tricking many influential figures. As the new successor to Sono, Yohan is determined to seek revenge and knows he needs the help of important connections, including the VIP inmates who are the leaders of the Sinsandong-gung. However, Sang-soo advises him not to contact these inmates as it could be dangerous. When a guard catches Yohan trying to enter Sinsandong's cell, he explains that not everyone, including the guards, is allowed to access the VIP cell. Yohan then tries to trick the warden, but his plan fails when a man named Do Wonbong, who Yohan thought was a janitor, comes to meet him. Sang-soo greets the man, revealing that he is actually a VIP prison inmate. Wonbong is a former loan shark with significant influence in many major companies in South Korea, despite his advanced age. He meets with Soo-yeon, but when she asks him to allow Yohan to join the Sinsandong-gung, he firmly rejects her request. After their meeting, Soo-yeon leaves the prison and is secretly photographed by a man as she exits the gates. The man sends the picture to Jae-sun. When Soo-yeon arrives home, she sees a row of photos of people who are her targets for revenge. The next day, Soo-yeon tells Yohan that she has discovered Min-ho's location, but she won't be able to see him that day as she is being followed by Jae-sun. Meanwhile, Yohan meets with an inmate named Shim Jae-chul, who works in the Sinsandong-gung, and breaks Jae-chul's leg so he can take his place and work directly with Wonbong. Wonbong is forced to hire Yohan on the condition that he must behave responsibly while completing his assigned tasks. The next day, Wonbong asks Yohan to deliver a document to a specific location within half a day. Desperate to complete his task and see Min-ho, Yohan sets out to fulfill the job. However, he cannot get help from Soo-yeon, as she is still being followed by Jae-sun. Instead, she sends the police to assist him. While on his mission, Yohan runs into Hae-do, who is preparing to attack him at a casino. A battered man named Woo Sang-ki, the accountant for the Goldman Casino, comes to Yohan's aid and claims that Yohan is a messenger for Wonbong. They manage to escape Hae-do's pursuit with the help of Park Ro-sa, a policewoman who arrests Hae-do. Hae-do's men try to chase the police car taking him away, but Hae-do escapes. Meanwhile, Sang-ki and Yohan meet Soo-yeon, who helps Sang-ki and asks Yohan to find Min-ho, the key witness to Dal-soo's murder. Following Soo-yeon's directions, Yohan rushes to a school where Min-ho is hiding. As he tries to take Min-ho away, Hae-do reappears, having followed him using a tracking device on his shirt. Yohan and Min-ho try to escape until they reach a parking lot. Min-ho offers to help Yohan if he saves his father, Sang-ki, who is with Soo-yeon. Just as they try to find another place to hide, a car driven by Yang-hwa crashes into Min-ho, killing him. Yohan is cornered by Hae-do and Yang-hwa but is rescued by Soo-yeon, who tells him to get in the car. Yang-hwa tries to catch Yohan by climbing onto Soo-yeon's car, hindering her driving. After narrowly escaping Yang-hwa, Soo-yeon is pursued by Jae-sun's car as he suspects Yohan is with her. When Soo-yeon stops her car, Jae-sun finds Ro-sa and forces her to let Soo-yeon go. Meanwhile, Yohan returns to prison on time, but Wonbong is angry with him for causing chaos that could provoke the Yang brothers' anger, despite successfully delivering the document. 24 years ago, the Yang brothers were fake cosmetic sellers who took over Wonbong's casino by having him thrown in jail. They also worked with a prosecutor to make it easier to run the casino business. In the present, Byung-wook meets with the Yang brothers and Jae-sun at a secret location. Byung-wook learns that Yohan is working with Wonbong and is concerned about revenge. Jae-sun shows Soo-yeon's photo to the group, and Yang-jun seems to recognize her. Byung-wook asks the Yang brothers to resolve all the trouble they've caused. Meanwhile, Jae-sun is tasked with shutting down the illegal gambling at Seongju prison. Yang-hwa, involved in Min-ho's death, asks Hae-do to take the blame, but he refuses and beats up Yang-hwa's men. Jae-sun is angry about failing to catch Yohan and asks the inmates to join him in fighting Yohan, but they all refuse. One day, Jae-sun receives a secret letter from the professor, who offers to help him in exchange for a reward. With the professor's assistance, Jae-sun goes to Seongju prison on the night of a gambling game, causing everyone to start cleaning up the gambling items. Some of the guards try to buy time, so Jae-sun doesn't enter before all the evidence is hidden, and Johan even burns some of the gambling equipment. When Jae-sun arrives at the warden's office where the gambling took place, the room is tidy and free of any gambling items, so he is unable to do anything. As a result, Jae-sun attempts to send the warden responsible for dismantling illegal gambling in Seongju prison away. Once all illegal activities in the prison are exposed, Johan is no longer the ruler of the prison because he has lost the privileges gained from the gambling league. All the inmates return to their cells, including Johan, who is now back in a cell with Do-Cole. When Johan enters Do-Cole's cell, all the residents are prepared to beat him up. However, Johan's improved martial skills allow him to defeat everyone, leaving Do-Cole dead, accidentally killed by his own men. Johan, who didn't commit any murders, is vilified by all of Do-Cole's members, putting him in danger of being transferred to another prison. To avoid this, Johan meets with Wonbong for help and is offered the condition of killing Sang-ki after his release from prison. Johan is conflicted, as he still feels guilty for Minho's death, and decides to leave Wonbong's place without answering the offer. At night, Johan checks Minho's social media and is shocked to find a video of Minho removing the mask worn by Dalsu's murderer, revealing that Sono, who has been helping him, is the one who killed his grandmother. Johan contemplates his fate of being transferred to another prison and realizes that no one, including Jin Hyung, can help him. The only person who can save him is Wonbong. As Johan is about to be transferred, he begs Wonbong to save him, even if it means having to kill Sang-ki after his release. Wonbong finally accepts his request, and Johan is not transferred. Johan understands why Sono, a former subordinate of Wonbong, is willing to do dirty jobs because he has no other choice, just like him. One day, Wonbong, a powerful figure in the prison, kneels before the Sinseondong elder, asking for help to reclaim Skin Nation from the Yang brothers due to the changing situation in the prison. He asks the elder to release Johan, his errand boy, immediately. His request is granted, and Johan is released from prison to work for Wonbong so he can be easily tracked. Following Wonbong's orders, lawyer Gu Cole takes Johan to capture and kill Sang-ki, who has caused problems in South Korea's gambling industry and has a record of illicit funds that Wonbong can use to regain control of Skin Nation. Meanwhile, Byung-wook, Sang-wook, and the Yang brothers meet with Annie Stevens, the director of a casino in Macau involved in illicit gambling. Annie becomes angry because they have failed to manage the casino effectively and have lost some of its illicit funds to Skin Nation. Byung-wook blames the Yang brothers for the casino's mismanagement, leading to a fight between them. In prison, Wonbong is excited about Johan's success in killing Sang-ki and orders him to go to Goldman Casino to gamble. Later, Johan plans to meet Soo-yeon at a secret location, but it turns out that Sang-ki has also joined them because Johan did not actually kill him. Bong Cole, assigned by Wonbong to oversee Johan's work, discovers this and decides to team up with him after learning that Wonbong will kill them both once he regains control of Skin Nation. During their meeting, Johan, Soo-yeon, and Sang-ki discuss the complexity of their case, including the fact that Dae-il, who had been contacted by Minho, has been killed. At the same time, Wonbong meets with Byung-wook and Sang-wook to persuade them to turn against the Yang brothers and join his plan to take over Skin Nation. The two prosecutors agree because they both have strained relationships with the Yang brothers and are tempted by the rewards Wonbong offers. Later, Wonbong asks Johan to gamble with a gambling addict who holds a stake in Goldman Casino, using the stake as the bet. After winning the game, the man agrees to transfer ownership of Goldman Casino's shares to Johan. Meanwhile, the Yang brothers discuss Byung-wook's apparent desire to have Johan killed. Hae-do, who was arrested for disobeying Yanghwa's orders, is also present at the meeting. Yanghwa appears, angry at Hae-do and ready to torment him. As Johan sits in his house, thinking about how to master a casino, he recalls Sono's advice to focus on the top floor suite of the casino hotel, a VIP area only accessible by invitation. Meanwhile, Yang Jun prepares for the launch party of Skin Nation with the help of Woo-sang, a subordinate recently released from prison. As Johan continues to do the work requested by Wonbong, he is suddenly followed by a mysterious man intending to attack him. Bong Cole, noticing the danger, steps in to help him escape and reveals that the attackers are actually messengers working for Jin Hyung. As Dae-moon was released from prison, he was feeling frustrated after a losing streak at gambling. Wu Sang approached him and brought him to meet Yang Jun, who offered him money in exchange for information about Johan. Daemoon eagerly complied, sharing all he knew about Johan with Yang Jun before leaving with the money. Wu Sang used this information to track down Johan at a small gambling establishment and delivered an invitation to play in the VIP suite at the casino. When Wonbong learned of this, he was thrilled at the prospect of Johan winning illicit funds from the Goldman Casino. Johan met with Sono to discuss the upcoming gambling match in the VIP suite. Meanwhile, Yang Hua was upset with Yang Jun for inviting Johan, especially after learning that Su Yun had helped him. Little did they know, Yang Jun's true plan was to kill Johan. The following day, Johan receives a VIP invitation to a gambling event. Despite facing tough competition, he wins several rounds, impressing the other players. However, Yang Jun is not interested in playing against Johan at the gambling table. Instead, his attention is focused on Su Yun, who has accompanied Johan to the event. When Johan teases Su Yun, pretending not to know her, Yang Jun becomes annoyed and decides to challenge him at the gambling table. However, Johan's playing skills have improved significantly, and he easily defeats Yang Jun, even tricking him into making a bet of 1.6 billion. Yang Jun becomes suspicious, thinking that Johan must have made some kind of secret agreement with other players to win so easily. He becomes particularly suspicious of Chairman Su and Chairman Cha, who were present at the event. In reality, Johan had been planning his big win for some time. He had met with Chief Cha and Chief Su before the game day, and the two had agreed to help him get Goldman back from Yang Jun. His victory at the gambling table was the result of careful planning and strategy, not any kind of secret agreement. The high-stakes gambling game between Yang Jun and Johan reached a fever pitch as Yang Jun bet $80 billion on the VIP room. Johan, with a trick up his sleeve thanks to the information provided by Su Yun, eagerly accepted the challenge. As the final card was about to be revealed, Johan produced a card seemingly out of nowhere, much to the surprise of his opponents. Earlier, Johan had met with Jin Hyung, who was working with Yoon Byung-wook to capture him. Jin Hyung explained that he had to follow Byung-wook's plan to stay in Seoul, even though he didn't know why Byung-wook wanted to arrest Johan. Johan revealed that Byung-wook was protecting the Yang brothers and their illicit casino funds and would do anything to get rid of him. To perfect his plan, Johan enlisted Daemoon's help to trick Sono into joining his game and asked Jin Hyung to arrest director Jin Soo-min, Skin Nation's accountant. With everything set, Johan was ready to take down the corrupt casino and bring justice to those involved. As the gambling game reached its climax, Johan pulled out an ace from his sleeve and won the VIP room, shocking his opponents. Meanwhile, Yang Hua and Su-min were meeting with Annie, the head of the casino in Macau, to discuss the Yang brothers' illicit funds. Annie revealed that Sang-ki was still alive and had fled to Japan, blaming Yang Hua for not preventing it. To appease the Macau side, Yang Hua offered an illicit flow of funds from the Goldman Casino, totaling 300 billion, to the casinos in Macau. The head of the Macau casino threatened to kill the Yang brothers if the flow of funds stopped. In the parking lot, Sono and Daemoon were preparing to kidnap Su-min, but Jin Hyung arrived with Su-min, causing Sono to lose track of her. Daemoon informed Su Yun that Sono had fallen into their trap. With everything falling into place, the stage was set for the final showdown between Johan and the corrupt forces behind the casino. In the VIP room, Yang Jun threatened those present, demanding to know who had paid the dealer to cheat. To protect the dealer, Su Yun pulled out her gun and shot Yang Jun in the leg, revealing her true identity. Johan and Su Yun then disguised themselves and took him to a warehouse. As Su Yun tried to leave the warehouse, she was confronted by members of the Bookie gang. Hei-do, who had joined forces with Johan, came to help and offered Johan the position of leader of the Bookie gang, as he had been mistreated by Yang Hua. Meanwhile, Yang Jun was rescued by his men, and after reviewing the casino's CCTV footage, he offered 100 million won for the capture of Johan, Sono, and Su Yun. As Johan faced Yang Hua, he used a drug that caused Yang Hua to convulse, giving Su Yun time to copy all the data about the Goldman Casino onto Su-min's phone. With Sang-ki's information, Johan accessed Yang Hua's Goldman Casino account and transferred 300 million, won to a company account in Woo Min-ho's name. Meanwhile, Daemoon, who was with Sono, suddenly froze and left when a police officer arrived. With everything falling into place, Johan and his allies were closing in on their goal of taking down the corrupt casino and bringing justice to those involved. As Johan made his escape, He hailed a taxi driven by his friend, Jae-sun. Jae-sun revealed he was on Yohan's side and agreed to take him to meet Soo-yeon and Jin-hyung. Yohan asked Jin-hyung to take Soo-min to a safe location and release her while he and Soo-yeon search for Daemoon. Meanwhile, Sono, previously caught by the police, is handed over to the Young brothers, who accuse him of being Soo-min's kidnapper based on CCTV footage. The brothers torture Sono to find out Soo-min's location. Soon after, Yohan arrives to exchange the illicit funds he had previously transferred to Sono. Skeptical of Yohan's intentions, Young-hwa throws a knife at Sono's leg. In response, Yohan threatens to donate all the illicit funds to charity. The brothers, unwilling to lose the money, agree to hand over Sono to Yohan and also give him a cell phone with a company account in Woo Min-ho's name. After rescuing Sono, Yohan meets Soo-yeon and puts Sono in the trunk of her car, knowing the Young brothers will be pursuing them. In the car, Soo-yeon asks Yohan about the illicit funds he handed back to the Young brothers, fearing Wonbong will be angry. He explains that the funds are safe because Yo-kang, a financial transaction expert, helped him move the company's account to a personal account in Woo Min-ho's name, causing the balance in the account given to the Young brothers to be automatically emptied. She is amazed at his intelligence in securing the funds. The next day, Yohan questions Sono about Dalsu's death, but he refuses to admit to killing her and instead accuses Jin-hyung of being Daeil's killer. Sono then tries to commit suicide, but Yohan stops him. He calls Wonbong to tell him he has secured Goldman Casino's illicit funds, but Wonbong, who is being treated for his illness, orders Bon Cole to kill Yohan, as his job is done. When Yohan visits Wonbong, he is confused to find that his name is not listed among the shareholders at Goldman Casino, realizing that he has been deceived by changing the shareholder's name to his own. Yohan reveals that Bon Cole has been working for him and has become Wonbong's replacement after being fired from the Sinseondong gang. With his newfound power, Yohan orders Bon Cole to take Wonbong to a location where Sono is supposed to kill him. However, Sono is unable to follow through with the plan and faints before he can stab Wonbong. Moments later, Young-jun arrives and takes Sono and Wonbong with him, having obtained the location from Bon Cole. Meanwhile, Young-hwa and her men attack Yohan's house but run into Jae-sun, who plans to capture Young-hwa, as she has been interfering with Yohan's plans. Annie visits Young-hwa in the interrogation room and informs him that the Young brothers have been fired from Goldman Casino's management for losing the casino's illicit funds. Later, Yohan meets with Annie, impressing her with his work and earning a promotion to boss at Goldman Casino. As time passes, Sang-wook leads a meeting to discuss reports of corrupt prosecutors who pose a threat to his and Byung-wook's reputations. After the meeting, Byung-wook meets with Annie at a bar to ask for payment for protecting Goldman, but she refuses, citing the change in casino management under Yohan's leadership. Meanwhile, Yohan discusses a revenge plan with Soo-yeon, targeting Byung-wook first. Moments later, Jae-sun, assigned by Byung-wook, brings Yohan to meet with him. Curious about why Yohan is targeting him, Byung-wook listens as Yohan tries to deceive him by claiming he is actually targeting Jin-hyung and wants Byung-wook to help send Jin-hyung to a distant location. At the same time, Jin-hyung becomes anxious, suspecting that Yohan is after him. He taps into Yohan's workspace to confirm that Yohan's target is Byung-wook. Yohan realizes he is being spied on and does not reveal all his plans. Through the wiretap, Jin-hyung learns that Yohan and Soo-yeon argued because Yohan wanted to use the law for revenge against Byung-wook. When Jin-hyung plans to give proof of the recording to Byung-wook, Byung-wook suddenly informs him that he has been transferred to a remote village, causing him to become angry and forget about the recording. On another occasion, Yohan asks Jin-hyung to arrest all the Sinseondong gang inmates with VIP privileges. When Jin-hyung arrives at the prison, he realizes that the inmates he meets are not the leaders of the Sinseondong gang, as Soo-yeon had informed the chief warden of Jin-hyung's plan. Soo-yeon also meets with Sinseondong gang officials and declares that she wants to become their trusted ally, having broken off her cooperation with Yohan. All of these actions are part of Yohan and Soo-yeon's plan to make them seem hostile. To further convince the Sinseondong gang, Soo-yeon invites Jin-hyung to join as her right-hand man. Soo-yeon also tells Young-jun and Wonbong, who have joined the Young brothers, that she has betrayed Yohan and become the new trusted ally of Sinseondong, even confessing that she will seize the position of manager at Goldman Casino. A few days later, Young-jun helps Young-hwa escape from prison. Suspicious of Young-jun's assistance from Soo-yeon, Yanghwa asks Wonbong to meet with her. During the meeting, Soo-yun reveals that Yohan is planning to report Byung-wook for sedition and murder. But Wonbong reveals that he knows Soo-yun and Yohan are pretending to be hostile towards each other. A panicked Soo-yun pulls out a gun and points it at Wonbong, but he calmly states that she cannot kill him before leaving. As Wonbong is in the elevator, he collapses due to the poison Soo-yun had placed on the gun he held. Soo-yun finds out and closes Wonbong's mouth, causing him to die. Meanwhile, Yohan meets with Byung-wook to inform him that he has been kicked out of the Sinseondong gang because of Soo-yun. Byung-wook seems unaware of Yohan's plans, including his cooperation with prosecutor Kim Woo-jae. In Macau, Annie's position in the casino office has been replaced by Miss Lam, who announces that she will give the Goldman Casino manager's seat to whoever can kill Yohan. The Yang brothers are determined to reclaim the manager's chair that Yohan took. At the same time, Soo-yun is seen putting Wonbong's corpse in her car's trunk. At the casino, Yohan and Dae-moon are worried because Soo-yun has not returned or reported anything. Soon after, a member of the Bukyampa gang enters and tells Yohan that he needs to meet someone. On the way, Yohan receives a message from Soo-yun and asks the driver to stop so he can contact her using a payphone. Soo-yun tells Yohan that Wonbong received a message from Annie about Miss Lam's plan to have everyone kill Yohan and urges him to run away immediately. After learning about the threat, Yohan tries to escape from the Bukyampa gang until he is rescued by Soo-yun. Meanwhile, Hae-do and his men arrive at Goldman Casino, intent on seizing Yohan's power. Dae-moon quickly copies all the data on the computer and then deletes it so Hae-do can't use it. While on the road, Soo-yun admits she was uncertain about what to do after killing Wonbong. Soon after, Yohan receives a call from Hae-do, who has taken Dae-moon hostage and demands that he come to the casino immediately. When Yohan arrives, Hae-do plans to kill him, but the casino lights suddenly go out, giving him the chance to save Dae-moon. At the same time, the Yang brothers, wanting their power at Goldman Casino back, kill all of Hae-do's men. As Yang Jun is about to attack Yohan, Woo-sang, wanting power for himself, betrays Yang Jun by stabbing him. As Hae-do watches Yanghwa brutally murder Woo-sang, he decides to flee the scene. Meanwhile, Dae-moon sacrifices himself to protect Yohan and hands over the file he copied earlier. Tragically, Jae-sun is killed by Hae-do while investigating Soo-yun at the casino. Yohan becomes the most wanted criminal in South Korea due to the chaos at the casino, and Soo-yun struggles to get in touch with him. Seeing on the news that she too is now a wanted fugitive, Soo-yun rushes to the prosecutor's office and confronts Byung-wook, revealing her true identity as Lee Hyun-soo. Byung-wook had killed her mother and sold her into prostitution when she was 16. Enraged, Soo-yun aims her gun at Byung-wook, but Yohan manages to calm her down before any shots are fired. A few hours before arriving at the prosecutor's office, Yohan met with Taekwon and obtained a video he had been hiding. He then reported Byung-wook to the police. Later, Byung-wook received a call from Woo-jae, asking him to meet Yohan and Soo-yun at the casino. When Byung-wook arrived, he saw Jin Hyung, who he thought was on his side, but Jin Hyung ultimately betrayed him. Yanghwa also testified against Byung-wook, revealing their past cooperation in killing several people. Yohan presented videos of Byung-wook and Annie discussing their corrupt activities. Despite Byung-wook's warning that Annie could still pose a threat, Yohan was undeterred, knowing that she no longer had any power. Miss Lam, who was now working with Yohan, then arrived with Annie. With overwhelming evidence and many witnesses against him, Byung-wook was cornered and had no choice but to confess to all his crimes and apologize to the victims. Even Sang-wook, who had previously cooperated with Byung-wook, withdrew his support after his son died following orders from Byung-wook to investigate Soo-yun. Desperate, Byung-wook tried to take his own life, but Yohan stopped him, telling him that he must live with the agony of his actions for the rest of his life. Byung-wook was eventually tried and found guilty, with Yohan testifying against him in court. Now that Byung-wook was officially a suspect and had been imprisoned, Yohan set his sights on Jin Hyung, who had killed Dae-il. While Byung-wook was imprisoned, he was suddenly kidnapped by Hae-do's men. Determined to get revenge, Soo-yun arrived and killed Hae-do and all his men. She then shot Byung-wook in the leg and injected him with a poisonous liquid that would torment his mental health. Unsatisfied with the punishment he had received, she wanted to continue torturing him. During a meeting with Jin Hyung, Johan learned that Jin Hyung had received a promotion thanks to the Sinseondong gang and had played a role in Woo-sang's betrayal of Yang Jun. The next day, Johan was kidnapped by a group of unknown individuals, while Soo-yeon turned herself into the police and was on her way to a detention cell. Jin Hyung received a mysterious message from someone who promised to get rid of Johan and Soo-yeon and asked him to meet them. Jin Hyung quickly went to the designated meeting place, only to be shocked when Yang Hwa appeared. Meanwhile, Johan was approached by a young man named Lim Seung-bom from the National Intelligence Agency, who had his sights set on Miss Lam and asked for his cooperation. As the story came to an end, Johan realized that the coveted position of Goldman Casino manager would continue to elude him, despite the efforts of many others to claim it. So the moral of the story is, if you're gonna go undercover in a gambling den, make sure you know how to play the game, or you might end up in deeper trouble than you ever imagined.